This is going to be a demonstration on creating a multi-page document in InDesign using the baseline grids and a modular grid system. I'm going to use some sample copy that will be brought in, and the sample copy is actually already styled, or at least I've applied styles. They're not set to be what they're going to look like in final, but they have been tagged with styles. So this particular demonstration is not going to talk about how to scrub your text when it comes in and apply your styles. This is going to be entirely on creating your grid system, dropping some things into that grid system, and how it will work in practice. Okay, so to get started in InDesign, create a new document. The size of this document, I'm going to have some numbers in here that I'm going to deliberately choose to be a little bit off maybe of the standard, and that will help show you what more difficult settings might be. So anyways, this first one, the size I think that we're going to start with is the 7.75 by 9.5 tall. It's going to be an 8-page document, so we're allowed to start on page 1. I want to have a primary text frame, 3 columns, and I'll start with a 1/4-inch column, and a 1/2-inch margin around the outside is fine. These are going to change as we work on the grid system, but this is a good starting point. Okay, so we'll say create this. Now, to start with, you want to kind of figure out what's going to be on every page, and hopefully you have this kind of sorted out by now. But I'm going to open up my scrub text, and we'll look at that. So we've got the front cover is defined here, inside copy, so assuming this is going to be inside front cover, and then this is going to be likely, so digital filmmaking is where page 1 is going to be. So so if the cover was page 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this is back cover. So this copy has been separated out for us in a way that does make sense, but we want to just get an idea of what the content is going to be. So we do have a cover, and the inside front cover is going to be as introduction, and then we start with digital filmmaking. So in a lot of ways, I would tend to think of the digital filmmaking as being page 1, because I don't necessarily want the cover to be page 1. But as far as a page count, we have 8 pages in here, and that's perfect. Okay, so looking at this document, we've got our 8 pages, but with a facing page document in InDesign, page 8, or the back page of this, is all the way at the end, and that's separated from number 1. And that doesn't make it very easy to design the outside cover with the front and the back as a spread. So here, and if you try to move this up, what happens is it reflows pages, but it always leaves page 1 at the top here. So to get started, go back here. So to get started, what I want to do is I want to renumber these pages, and what I mean by that is if I create an automatic page number. Okay, so this has my automatic page number in it, so as soon as I put it on a page, it'll tell me what that page is going to be. Page 3, page 2. So deciding what these are going to be, this is going to be the front cover here. This one here is going to be our inside front cover, and this is going to be our page 1. But right now it's saying it's page 3. So what I can do is come in here onto this and select my page 3. And then select page 3, and then I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to go to the numbering and section options, and then I'm going to tell it I want to start on page 1. And now this is page 1, so it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then these two are 1 and 2. Now it popped up a warning saying we already have a page of 1 and 2 in here. And that can screw things up a little bit, because I have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, And if you go to print or export certain pages, it may not know exactly which ones you got. So to address that, you can renumber these outside pages if you want to. But first I want to get this last page, into a spread configuration with the first page. So I want to make sure that I uncheck the allow document pages to shuffle, and I want to uncheck allow selected spread to shuffle. Then I can take this last page here, I can slide it up, and I want to slide it up so that it butts right up against number 1 here. I don't want to have it spaced out, I want to have it right up there. And it drops in, it will become a spread. And now we have a 1, 2 pages in here. These, so it's got a 1, 2, 3 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 now. So these pages, I might want to renumber them so they don't conflict. So I can come in and say, I'm going to right click on this, numbering in sections, and instead of starting at page 1, we'll have it start at page 100. And now we don't have a conflict. It's weird because they're not really page number, they're not really page number 100, but this is kind of an easy way to get around that. Because I'm not going to have page numbers shown on the document, on the final piece, on the cover or on the inside front cover. I only want to show page numbers on now the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so to create a grid system for this, I'm going to go to my parent page to begin with. And what I want to do is I want to just figure out what my body copy is going to look like first off. So I'm going to lay in just some placeholder text and see, and then font wise, you want to use, definitely want to use like a, well, you could use whatever you feel like using, I guess, but I prefer to use an old style typeface as opposed to a modern. Moderns have a lot of thicks and thins, and I find that when it gets printed, sometimes those thins can be a little bit difficult. Doesn't mean that it doesn't work, but it's a little bit, can be more of a challenge. Save on. Let's see. No, I don't have a very good set of that. I'm going to just go with Caslon, I think. And so my body copy is going to be Caslon regular. It's at 12 point. My body copy I typically want to have sized somewhere between 9 and 12, depending on the application and the size of the document. 12 is a little on the big side. I'm going to drop it down to like 10 point copy and see how that works. The default for 10 point is 12 point leading. That's what it wants to use, which is fine. But a lot of times I like to put a little more air in the leading and give it a little more space. For me, I have this preference where there's a positive and a negative relationship between where the line of type goes and where there's a space in between it. If it's regular leading, you kind of get it, but not as well, I guess. So that's my preference. Okay, so back in here. Try 14, 15. Interesting. Okay. Just checking something. Okay, so I've got I'll run 14 point type in here, or 14 point leading. So I've got 10 point type and 14 point leading. I would normally print this out and look at it and see how it works, but we'll assume that this is going to be fine. Now I can start figuring out how I want my grid to work. I know what my type's going to look like, and now I'm going to figure out, okay, where it's going to land, and it's all going to be based off the baseline grid. So to start with, I'm going to take all my copy here and tell it that I do want it to lock to a baseline grid. In the paragraph box in the bottom right hand corner, there's a little button here for locking it to the baseline grid, and you can see all of a sudden it all jumped and changed, and it's because my baseline grid is not set up to be the same as my body copy right now, and it's forcing my body copy to conform to that. So I'm going to change my baseline grid, go into InDesign, Preferences, Grids, increment every, 14 point, and I'm gonna say okay, and now it's fitting correctly. I'm gonna show the baseline grid just so we can see what it's doing. So now we can see it's there. All my copy is locking to it. And currently, you can see how my margins line up at the top because my baseline grid, so I want to check this here, my baseline grid is set to start at 0.5 inches, and that's where I had my margin set up to begin with. So the lines start with the margin, and then the baseline grid just continues all the way down throughout the page. But you can see when it gets a couple things. When it gets down here, the margins don't line up anymore, and also the baseline grid really doesn't line up with the page anymore. Some of this is a little more subjective, but you definitely want to have your margins line up with your baseline grid. And then you also want to, from this, also kind of figure out, how big do you want your modules to be? How many of them are there going to be? How do you want to fill up your page at this point? So I just start by just grabbing the box tool. I want to make sure that I'm going to fill this with a color, and we'll just use it as a placeholder. Just fill it with a color. Don't give it a stroke. The stroke can kind of mess things up when we come to measuring. So just drop in a box, and then you go, okay, what if this was our module? And the way you would kind of test this is go, okay, I'm going to copy one down here, and you want to just keep on copying. I can do that, keep on copying down. But what I want to do, which I want to check and make sure that my size here is super correct. InDesign likes to screw things up a little bit sometimes, so I just want to double check to make sure that this is lined up, because when it converts from points to inches, it'll be a weird number. It's hard to know if it's correct. Okay, looks like it's good. So the height of this box gives us 1.5556. It gives us this weird number because it's based off points, but that's why we want to walk through this process and kind of see where the numbers are important. So I've got this copied down here, and I want to keep on copying it. So I'm going to go and say step and repeat, see how many I can get on here. So it's 5. It gets a little crowded, but I can get 5 on here with this. So this would be a 3x5 stack. If I change this so that's 5. That gives me a lot more room, smaller modules, but that gives me more room for sure. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good for an idea to get started. When I'm doing this, the size of the modules, you can have, you could have modules that were half the page in size, but it's not really accomplishing much at that point. You want to have them small enough that you have different places to kind of snap into, but you don't want to have them too small, like a grid paper kind of a situation, because then you're not really conforming your layout to a grid as much, or it doesn't appear to. It just looks like things are sort of arbitrarily being placed. So I like to have anywhere from 1 to maybe 4 columns across in a document, and then anywhere from maybe 4 to 8 rows high. I don't want to get anything higher or lower than those numbers. Okay, so I've got this in here. Now what I'm going to do is I want to figure out where I'm going to place this on the page. Now I know I basically know what the height is going to be. The other thing I want to do too, so since I figured out what my leading is going to be, I'll draw a box in here. Okay, so my leading, the height of this box is 0.1944. Kind of a weird number, but that's what it is. So my I kind of want to use that 0.1994 for everything as a base. So in my document setup, not here, I'm sorry, the margins and columns, I want to make my margins gutter, I'm sorry, gutter 0.1944. So, okay, now, so now this so now I got this as a square. The idea being that the columns will be the same as the leading. So then I need to come into my master text frames here and make those match my columns. 0.1944. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so I've got this and I can kind of figure out where I want this grid to go. Step and repeat. Cool. So that's kind of the module system I'm looking at right now for my page. It's not a place where I necessarily would want it to be, but that's where I'm starting to figure out, like, how do I want this to work? Where should it be on the page? So let me grab these and group them. One of the other things I want to do too is with my baseline grid, I know it's going to be the 0.1944 number throughout. So looking down at the bottom here, this is a kind of a personal preference. I don't like having my baseline grid not start at the bottom of my page. I want to start there and have things just stack up. I want this to have the rhythm and flow. There's no reason design-wise that there should be this little gap here. It's just weird. So I want to line that up. But unfortunately, when you create your document, InDesign asks you how far you want to go from the top with things, with the baseline grid, not so much from the bottom. So I have to figure that out myself. So let me just going to create a little block here. And then go to the bottom and figure out how far off I am. Okay, so that's my last block. And if I want to move this up just to squeeze that a little bit off, I'm just going to drag this down and measure how big is this line here. And that line is 0.0556. I'm just going to copy that number. And then when I'm going to go back into my baseline grid, and where it starts, I'm going to add that number to it so that it just moves it down a tiny bit. Okay, so now, just double check this, make sure I did it right. There we go. Okay, so now my baseline grid is starting at the bottom of my page, all is good. And I can use my baseline grid as a, when I'm moving my modules around now to decide how I want that to work. That looks good. I'll give myself a little more room at the bottom, just I'm going to have page numbers down there. Yeah, I think that should work right there. Okay, so once I've got this kind of locked into place where I want these to go, I want my margins to line up with where my modules are, and so I need to make it line up down here at the bottom and up at the top. So what I can do is up here at the top, there's several different ways to do this, but I'm going to just make a box that's going to start at the top of the page and it's going to end right there, because then I can just look at how tall this is right here. It's 1.3334. I'll copy that, and then I can go into my document setup. My top margin now should be that 1.33334. Say OK, and there it is now. Oh, and one thing, here's something I gotta fix. I do this a lot. When I do these margins, document setup, I want to uncheck this little guy here, because the margins are all the same right now, but now they're going to be different. Say OK. That's better. All right. So that's how big the margin is there, and then on the bottom, same thing. Check. You can see how I'm kind of dragging that away and drag it back in just to make sure that it snaps in place, because InDesign is a little weird about measurements. Sometimes it'll get just a tiny bit off and you won't realize it. Okay, height of that 5833, and that is the bottom margin. So go to document setup, margin bottom, paste that 0.5833, say OK, and now my bottom margin matches up. Say OK. Now I want to make my baseline grid start with where my margin is up here now too. So that was, grab this number again, 1.3334, and then I go into my preferences for my grids and go to my baseline grid start. Say OK, now it's starting in the right place, and yeah, voila, we're in good shape. Perfect. So now I know where this my modules will sit on the page. There's going to be 3 by 5, 15 total. But what I want to do now is, if I don't have these, I don't know where they line up. I'm just going to hide my baseline grid so I can see what I'm doing a little better. Zoom out, and I'm just going to drop guides on the page that'll match up with my modules. I'll show you how we do this. When I drop in guides on a page, a guide will land on the page that I put it on, which is just fine. But sometimes I want to have a guide that's going to be the same on both pages. So it'd be great if I could have them, land on both of them. The way you do that is if you keep the guide off to the side, InDesign will put it across the pages, and it'll put it across the artboard too. So that could be pretty handy, and that's what we're going to do for this one. Is we want it to match up with both pages, so we're going to have it go across everything. Okay, so lining up. What I can do, one way to make sure that I've got this kind of correct is when I select this one box here, if I come up here to the top and tell it I want to measure from this corner, it tells me that it's 1.3334 away from the top. And so I can choose my guide here, because I need my guide to come out. There we go. And I just want to make sure that it's the same exact number. And then when I come down to the bottom here, I can tell I want to measure this corner, which is 2.6945. Copy that. I'll make another guide. Not lined up. I think, no, it's just a little bit off. Okay, and then same thing for this one. Top corner. So InDesign likes to round that even when it's not technically that. Okay, there we go. Again, at the bottom corner, 4.25, that's a nice number. So I'm actually going to copy these two here. I'm going to drag them down. Oops. And those will be at 4.25. Oops. Oh, I got it. The top here. There we go. 4.25. Bottom corner 5.8056. Copy these. That means the top corner here needs to be at 5.8056. Cool. It's nitpicky, but it is the process. And getting it right the first time when you're going into it just makes everything better down the road. Mistakes multiply, so you want to make sure that you don't have any at the very beginning. And you don't necessarily need to have a module down here, but or a line down there, but you can certainly put one to kind of indicate where that is. I am actually going to simplify this and get rid of that one. Okay, so we've got our guides in place. They're going across both spreads. I'm going to get rid of these boxes. And now my text box, I just want to have my text frames match up with the margins now. Oops. Bang. Okay, awesome. And now we know that this is how our images or our graphics will come together into this. Our text lives in these frames. The body copy will always be in these frames somehow, and other elements can come in and fill into these modules. So say we're going to bring a photo in, I might have a small inset photo that's going to be like that. I might have another graphic that is going to be like this, or you can have one come in and it's just going to fill it like this. You want to have it go, what I don't want to do is I don't want to have a picture necessarily stop here. You want to go, say, inside the modules. If you are going to go to a next one, then you can go across the gutter, but you want to leave this white space in there. So this image can actually go, you can also scale down all the way to the bottom like this. You can bleed things off the page if you want to, but they will come in and they will terminate right there. I can have things go outside the margin here, but it will come in and it'll stop right at the module. Okay, so we have our master page set up basically now in good shape. So going back to our main pages here, we can, I need to make sure this gutter here is not quite the same as this one, 0.1944. Actually, it's not that, it's the margins on this page. Okay, I need to check. When I do the margins, one of the things I need to check to make sure, if I'm going to adjust the, go back to my, so if I go to adjust my margins and columns, right now, I think that I'm just adjusting both of them because I'm on this page, but I actually only have one selected in my page number up here. And so when I make changes to this page, it's only going to impact that page. So I want to make sure that I shift click both of those and then go into my margins and columns and make edits. So it needs to be 0.1944. Now they're both the same. Now I can go back to a document, edit. So page 1 and page 2. These pages aren't going to have master text frames on them. This page, yeah, I guess that'll be fine. We've got this now. Okay. That's page number. I'm going to drop in my body copy now. I have it in this document, so I'm going to just take it all, copy it, come in here, and paste it. First thing I can do is, it's got copy that goes on the front cover. I'm going to just subtract that out of there, and I'll go back up to my front cover and drop it in. This is the page 1 here, and then this next one for the digital film making is going to be page 2. So I'm going to go right in front of the digital filmmaking copy, and I'm going to insert a break character of a page break, and that's just going to force that to go to the next page. And I would actually go in and do that with each one of these. I want to enter so like in front of, see back here. I'm going to start with the photography. Start from the back. Type break character. Page break. By the way, this all this copy here, some of it is going to apply to captions and whatnot, and others are going to be back page copy. It doesn't belong on this photography page though, so I'm going to just cut that out of there, and I'm going to go to our back page and create a text block. And this is just to make sure that I got it all saved in here. So when we need to use it, we've got it. Okay, so page break. All right, so now there we go. It's all already kind of nice and organized. And so this is look at this. This is the idea of the grids, by the way, and styles for that matter. That now this copy is all where it's supposed to be. It's all styled. We have master pages created. We've got a grid system set up. Everything's got structure, which seems like a lot of work up front. But the nice thing is that as we go in and we work on the digital filmmaking page to design and get this all set up. Once we get that done, as we move to these other pages and look at them, they'll all be done too. So I almost want to hide them here before we get into it. But when we get done with this, looking at these pages, I'm just going to drop some photos in. We'll go back and you can see how this will develop a little bit. Okay, so first off on this first page, I'm going to, so there's this Applied Visual Arts folio. That folio is basically for a running footer or a running header. Get rid of the unnecessary copy. And folio for page number, because it's going to be on all the pages, I'm going to put it on the master. So go to the master here. Yeah, page 1. So let's see. So I'm going to go here, and there's that copy. That's going to be the same copy on every page. And then I'm going to create a box that's going to hold the page number down here. It could just be black down this area, but I'm going to create a box just to show you a few little tricks. So when I create a box that's going to go down here for page number, I typically want to avoid having it go up to the gutter, because pages, when they get printed, they don't necessarily line up perfectly when they're saddle stitched. So I want to stay away from it. So when I go to stay away from it, I want to bring it in, but of course when I bring it in, then I want to start looking at the grid that I got set up. So I'd want to bring it in about that far. And then for height of this, I want to also match the grid system and have it spaced away from the text a little bit. So whatever, here. So this bar here, this is the unit that we're working with. We want that to be down here somehow. That's too thin really for our to where we're going to put our folio and our page number. So it's probably going to be 2 or 3 units of this high. So let me see if I got it like that. Yeah, this is what 2 would look like. And I put this at the bottom here. That looks good. And this is the case where, because I lined up the bottom correctly with the baseline grid, I know that like the one more of these is going to fill that up, and it lines up. This is where it's nice to make sure that you've got everything dialed in. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of this, and what I want is a box down here that is that high. Oh, and here's one other thing. So the height of this box, the 0.1944, in your preferences, like whenever you nudge with your arrow keys, you nudge things around, it'll move things by 1 point, which isn't very convenient. Well, there's more convenient ways to do it, I guess. And what I want to do is, when I nudge it, I want it to nudge the size of one box. So I'm going to go into my preferences, and it is in my units and increments, and it's called the cursor key. It should be the nudge key, but it's called the cursor key. So if I change that to 0.1944 inches and say OK, and now when I use the arrow keys, it'll move 1 unit. And that way, that makes it super easy to decide, to move things around and line things up. Okay, so there's that. I think that should work for my header bar. So I'm gonna put my footer, or my folio text in there, and so I want to paste that in. I need to make it white. Is I'm going to justify it to the right, and then I want it to I'm going to change this from being small caps to being all caps. Upper and lowercase, or even small caps can be hard to make it look like it's centered in a box like this, because of the way the characters, the individual letters come out. Okay, so go bold, I'm gonna go semi-bold, 11. And now one of the things I need to do is I need to get this centered in this box. This box contains both the type and the color, so I can't just move it. What I do is I can take go into the type menu, or I'm sorry, right click on the box and go to the text frame options, and then down at the bottom here where it says align, we want to align the text in the center of the box like that. Another thing we'll want to do is we'll want to inset this copy here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure that's 1/2 inch. So I want to inset my copy unlock that on the right hand side 1/2 inch. There we go. That way it lines up. Okay, so I'll have that on every page, and then I want to have a page number in here too. So I'm going to put space and then drop in special character, marker, page number. There it is. But I want to have some division between these two, so I'm going to put I'll put a white space in there. We will go small. Yeah, I'm gonna go with an M space, and then a vertical bar, and then another M space, and that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to track this out, and so tracking out. And so as I'm tracking this out too, I want to start thinking about, okay, wait, maybe I want to line that up with a column too. The more things I can do that with, lining it up with this grid, the better. That's how it will create structure. Now, one thing that will happen is as the page numbers drop into place, if I went to page 10, 12, there would be 2 numbers in here, and then all of a sudden this would bump over. That would be something I'd want to watch out for, but we only have single digits, so we shouldn't have a big issue. So there we are, we got that on that page. I could decide to have page numbers just on one page if I wanted to, or I could take this over here, and in this case, my text will be left aligned in the box, and that box will have and I would also want to reverse this, so I'm going to put the page number on the left side. There we go. All right. So those should be on every page when we get back in there now. And then if we wanted to, if there's any sort of a graphic that we're going to put across the top, we could do that too. I'll drop it in just for fun. So if I want to have it white space there, oops, it's the same width. Just click it once, and I've got white space there. It matches up. Okay. Yeah, let's go. This. Symmetry. All right. Not fancy, but it gets the point across. Let's go back and look at our pages. Okay, so let's. We got the folio dropped in there. With page numbers. You can see this is a little strange. This page is going to be different than the other ones because it is the inside front cover. It says page 102. We don't need to have these things on this page. Those apply more for this other page. So what I might do in a case like this is I might duplicate my parent spread here, and on the B parent spread, I'm going to get rid of these elements, come back to this, and I'm going to apply this left-hand page B to this now. Oops. Hang on here. There we go. Don't need parent master text frames. Okay, and then I'm going to apply that B to this inside front cover too. How do I do this? There we go. There we go, that's better. Okay, so this page is a different style than this page, but my text frame still links from one to the other. Okay. And okay, so this intro text here, I'm going to, basically I want to center this text. So I'm going to go to my paragraph. I'm going to tell it that I want to span the columns. We're going to span all the columns, in this case all of them. Say OK. This text is broken up a little funny. I'm going to redo that. Bring this in. Bring this in. And there's a funny thing happening with the leading here, and that's because the style got a little bit, the application of the style on this got a little messed up. You can see it's got a plus sign, so I'm just going to clear those overrides to fix that. Oh, and expand the columns here. Let me fix this again. Span columns, all, center. Okay, got that in place. And right now, that text actually kind of fits in this frame. It's centered in there. I might want to do something a little more decorative with it. I'm going to make it just a tiny bit smaller. And that works pretty good, I think. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't like it when it has a last line that is really small like this. When it's centered, it looks wonky. And I want to control all the type, how it's behaving. One of the things that you can see it's a little bit weird here too is that I don't know that my type is actually matching up with my baseline grid. Because when I brought it in, I didn't tell it to do that. So the easiest way to do this, since it's already got styles applied to it, all the styles are based off of body copy. So if I go into my body copy paragraph style, and I go to my, I can't remember where it is here. Yes, indented spacing. Okay, align to grid is all lines on. Say OK. Now things are lining up to the grid. Okay, I can see now that this type is not necessarily lining up with this module exactly the way I would want it to. So I can make it a little bit smaller if I want to kind of get it to fit in there now. So there's that. I might even go a little bit. Tiny bit smaller. And then, like I said, I don't like it when the last line is smaller than the rest. I actually like it when the first line and the last line are smaller than the rest, but they're more balanced. So what I'll do is I'll just select this copy, and then in the paragraph here, I'm just going to tell it that I want to, where's that? Balance the ragged lines, and it'll try to balance them out a little bit more. I don't necessarily like the way InDesign does this all the time either, but I'll show you how to fix that. Oh, I've got some hyphenations. I don't want hyphenations anywhere in my document, so I'm going to go back to my body copy one, tell it no hyphenations, and then that change will apply to all my styles, so none of it will have hyphenations. Okay, so I want to fix this so it breaks a little bit differently. Just going to see what happens if I put a soft return in for programs. There we go, and I might want to carry this down. Sometimes I just want to have it, I want to control the way it's breaking myself. Oops. Okay, I don't want to mess with this too much, but so that's kind of an idea of how I could make this work. I could also, if I decided that I wanted to make this fit into one column, I could, either just take this box and kind of jam it together like. If I wanted to have like a really narrow photo to go next to it or something like that, that's something else I could do. In fact, I think what I may actually do is do 2 columns. I'm going to. Going to remove all those soft returns I just put in. Excellent. And instead of go a little bit bigger with it now. Oops. Right, justify. So now we're filling that all up. Dang it. That's right. That word keeps on breaking, so I'm replacing it with a non-breaking hyphen, so it doesn't do that to me anymore. Okay. Just trying to figure out what I want for size there. So now I'm going to drop in a photo here. There's this cool saxophone player here. Something I could do with this type of photo too is if I wanted to make it a little more interesting, is just okay. I'm going to create a new layer for photos. Move this back. There we go. So dropping in photos, you can go to like a full bleed if you wanted to. I was doing that. I might even like want to bring in one of these graphic elements. So for example, on my master page, I have this bar on this side. If I go here, I'm going to go in and say paste it in place, and I'll put it in the same spot. I don't necessarily like the blue there. I mean, don't know if I really like the blue period, but we'll just tell this one to be white. Let that carry. Then when we get to these pages here, you know, like after I style text, I want to make sure that I go in and update this by redefining the style. And then okay, do that. Just trying to get things set up a little bit better here. Notice I'm just changing style things here. I'm going to change the spacing, get the space, get the credits and stuff like that spaced out a little bit more. If I want to put a rule in here, I can do that, but wait, I don't want to draw the rule if it's going to go with the text. I'm actually going to go into the paragraph and say paragraph rules. Where's that? There we go. I want to put a rule below on, turn it on, see it showing up there, and then offset it. Okay, and then I want to update the school header. Update the degree. Let's copy. Okay, in there. Let's check and make sure that there's nothing with overrides on it. Good. And I'm gonna do. Just kind of figuring out how to update some of these styles in here. Like I said, I want to go in and just make sure that the school header, I just want to make sure that these are all redefined, what I've got on the page here. You see, like, I need to do a soft return. Go. My copy's corrupt. Contact info needs to be updated. Redefine style. Looks good. Okay. One thing. I want to put a little more space in here. I want to isolate my body copy. Go. That's not bad. It's not great, but not bad. Okay. So now I'm going to just drop in a couple photos and show you how they might kind of fit into this scenario. Oh, I forgot on this, obviously on this master page here, the text frame centered, and these ones need to knot here to the baseline grid. Drop in a photo here. So that might be a way a photo comes in, and then with your text wrap, I'll assign a text wrap to that immediately. Bring left-hand sides, and then I want to. So this is doing something interesting here because this spans across all this. I have a hard time there, so I'm going to move this up. Try text wrap. Okay. You always have to remember to redefine the style when you're done with it. Okay, so if I was going to drop in another image that was going to break this text up a little bit, I believe we have one that's in journalism here, and it's this little guide. I'm going to have it go right in the middle of the text here. This is going to break the grid, which is, I like to have something that's going to break the grid on every frame. It just brings a little bit of interest, a little visual interest. Okay, this needs to go onto our photo layer, and I'll lock our other layer and kind of position this where I need it to be. And then I want to set up, even though it's on the layer behind it, when I put a text wrap on it, it's still going to impact this text here. So text wrap, this is the main one. Just puts a box around it, which I guess works, but I want to kind of follow the shape on here. So I'm going to go with the wrap around the object shape, but I have to tell it, it's saying the same as clipping, which is the frame of the box. I want to tell it to either detect the edges or have it try to select the subject. So detect edges, and it's hard to see, but there's a little red line that's running around just the actual book, and when I push this out, you'll see it better. So there it is, and what I want to do is I would want to push it out the same as our leading. So 944. Out. Just kind of move it around to try to find a spot where you think it's going to work, or if you decide that it's not working there and you need to do something different with it. Obviously, you actually need to drop this white out of the background here. That's a Photoshop deal that you would want to deal with that, but you kind of start to get the idea, I think, what's happening. You can, if you do need to go in and do anything extra with this, with so we've got a widow showing up here if I wanted to try to impact this in some way to carry it down differently. I can actually do that with the text wrap if I choose my direct selection tool. Oh, I did double click on this. And then I grab my direct selection tool, and now you can see these nodes. It actually is a vector path now. So if I wanted to try to push that video down, I can actually go up and squish that, chase it around a little bit. There, now. So you can certainly do that. Anyways, I hope this helps a little bit. Oh, let me do one more quick thing here. So, noticing that we've been working on this digital filmmaking, these inside covers here, but notice like when I come to these other pages, they are mostly designed. And that's sort of the beauty of this whole thing, is that when I set this up correctly, grids, styles, everything, this could be an 8-page document, it could be an 80-page document. We could be doing a document with every college in the whole school. And the thing is, when we focus on just this first page, getting it all dialed in, the rest of them are going to just do the same thing. And any adjustment we make will be applied throughout the whole thing. So it makes it fun because you can obviously work quickly, but also if you want to come in and make some changes to it, do whatever you want to do, you can. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay. Anyways, that's my rambling little presentation, but I hope it helps a little bit. Shoot me a message if you guys have questions. I appreciate your hard work, and I'll see you later.